Hello, listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is the Awards Watch Podcast, episode 165. We are recording on a beautiful Sunday morning. I am your executive editor, Ryan McQuade. Joining us is the editor-in-chief, Erik Anderson.
It is me.
Nicole Ackman.
Hi.
And Dan Bayer.
I can't.
Eric's just ruining it right off the bat.
I can't.
Follow that up with anything.
I can't. All right. Well, last week we talked a lot about the Golden Globes. We gave our predictions and everything. We got a lot right. We got a lot wrong. There was Argentina in 1985. So with that, we're going to start off by talking about the Globes a little bit. And then the rest of the week, I mean, there was SAG, PGA, DGA, and then there's the Critics' Choice tonight. We're not really going to give any predictions into that because I'm sure they're just going to copy and paste a lot of the winners that happened this past week.
Except with ties.
That's
we can
true.
Predict how many ties there will be.
Yeah.
1, 2,
Yeah,
or 10.
How many ties do you guys think there will be tonight?
2.
At least 3.
I think
At least
2,
3.
but
Yeah, I'm thinking 2.
I'm being conservative.
Do you have
Yeah.
okay? Where are the ties in the categories that you guys see?
The lead actress.
The lead actress.
Best
Okay.
actor.
I think
or
whichever lead actors show up are going to tie for the win.
Yeah.
Well, considering the fact that one of them might not be there because the Globes had a COVID outbreak, it seems like.
Exactly.
With,
Thanks, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Activia. Anyway, I think that, yeah, I mean, do they have one every year or it feels like they have one every year, right? At Critics' Choice?
It's pretty consistent it's why they also have, 6 spots. They want to make sure they get everybody. And then even though we joke about this a lot, it isn't this calculated unless it's like a Force Awakens kind of thing. But I think they do. How do you say? Put their thumb on the scale a little bit. So like Spielberg winning director at the Globes, we might see a tie there.
Yeah. Yeah. It won't happen in picture. It never happens there.
No.
No.
It's usually an acting category because they
do we all have like a prediction what we think is going to win? I mean, by the time this episode records, it'll already be announced, but
I think Everything Everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's Everything Everywhere. Right, guys?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, if they change it from is it going to be Fablemans?
No, like I actually could see this in like being like the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood Parasite year, where even though Everything Everywhere has been picking up the majority of regional critics prizes, they go with the big auteur best picture play.
The movie.
The movie.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was one of their most, I guess, noble years of doing that.
I liked it.
If that's
that did really feel like it did feel like one of those things where like critics clearly love both of these movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, voting didn't end until Friday. So
they had plenty of time to look at what all the other places did and go, okay, well, this is what this season is pointing us towards. So that's what we're going to
I mean,
do.
I voted like a week and a half ago, but some people are procrastinators.
Yeah. This week, like you said, gave us Globe winners, SAG, DGA, PGA nominations, and then Critics' Choice voting ended.
Yeah.
So
there you go. Speaking of Globes, we were here last week. Like I said, we talked about Globes a lot. They had some winners. They had a ceremony over 3.5 hours long. They had a host. They had not everyone show up. And it was a good night, I think, for 3 films again. The Fablemans and Everything Everywhere All at Once and The Banshees of Inisherin. TV side was a really good night for Abbott Elementary. Good night for The White Lotus.
Flop for The Crown.
Well, that's not surprising. Not surprising. But None of the real upsets that we all kind of were all squirming about, thinking about, really happened. It was a real, oddly safe night in terms of awards for the Globes outside of non-English language film going to Argentina in 1980.
Yeah, that was the big surprise, which as far as I know, I don't know anyone that had predicted it.
No.
No.
So
Shout out to Josh Parham, by the way, for being the top predictor.
That's
of
the
everyone.
only thing he missed.
And it was the only thing he missed over at
Wow.
Gold Derby. Yeah. So once again,
I stuck
we're all
with,
just secondary to Josh in
I
this.
stuck with JLC instead of Bassett. So
I do think that of everything obviously other than Argentina 1985, I feel like that was the one that people differed in their opinions the most, maybe on who was going to get it, was supporting actress. And I also think that it really was one of those things, we always say with the Globes that like really what they are, in relation to the Oscars, is a chance for people to give televised speeches. And we saw some great speeches, and I do feel like speeches that could influence voters.
Yeah. I mean, it was, this week I've been sitting here kind of thinking about how everything is in the race. And we're going to talk about PGA and how this sort of influences and SAG sort of influence my thought process. But at the time, let's just do early part of the week thinking first. The day after the Globes, I was sitting there in my house and I was just kind of like, yeah, these, and it's probably because these are the only speeches we've seen really on like a national level, unless you're like on film Twitter all day watching these, critics prizes being handed out, or, Palm Springs was last weekend or whatever. And
Gotham's too, the
Gothams. Yeah. And sort of kind of just sat there and I was just like, well, Kate wasn't there. She was in London. I knew that going in, but yet Michelle gave a good speech, but then Colin Farrell gave a great speech, but then Austin Butler gave a great speech. And then you start going, and then Spielberg gave a great speech. And it's like, everyone pretty much Ki Kwan gave a great speech. Bassett's speech was okay. They all did a good job. But how much of that also too in the past, like Globes, yes, it gives them a good speech. But in these tight races, does that get them over the top more than somebody? Like, does it hurt now, like a Brendan Fraser or a Kate Blanchett for not being there? And I don't know, because it's still so early in the race, right?
And it's still, we don't really know how Hollywood as a whole is feeling about the Globes. Like, do they care? Did they even watch?
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
Clearly they
was low.
Like, yeah, and people reporting this like it was news. Like, it's a freaking Tuesday. Half the world didn't even know these things were happening
On a Tuesday.
It's not. That was to me, but like the thing is, like, how well are these speech clips doing on YouTube? How many people are watching those?
I can tell you that Austin Butler's has now done really great, but that's because of a tragedy that happened this week, not really just because of the speech. You know what I mean?
And that was one of those speeches, especially. Yeah,
I think that was a strong speech, anyways. That like
really
even had the tragedy not occurred, would have probably.
Well, she's in the speech.
Viral.
She's like they pan to her.
Yeah,
in the audience.
And like him invoking his mother and all of that. Like, I think that was gonna be a big
Colin Farrell's
speech, regardless. Yeah.
Farrell's speech is done well
first because Butler had not won anything.
Yeah, and that was
other than critics wins, and that's not speeches.
Yeah, and that was very, very much the kind of speech that can win you an Oscar, because it is so charming and likable, and he thanked all the people that he needed to thank in a way that is really touching. It didn't feel calculated. It wasn't, reaching for laughs. It was just pure. You could tell that he was genuinely thankful and embracing that moment.
He didn't praise blonde,
Well, yeah, other than that moment from Farrell, all of
he praised a performance in one shot.
Speeches were exactly what they needed to be, and the kind that people are going to want to see more of.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, especially Quan and being first.
I'll give the one thing, even though yes, it is a praising of Blonde. I'll give that at least. Colin Farrell watches films outside of, just his own. It feels like sometimes, because when you ask people on a red carpet, they're all like, "Yeah, I saw that one thing," or "Oh God, what have I seen this year?" And he actually had like a specific shot that he remembered from that scene and everything. Give him that. Plus, also too, like he's single, Anna de Armas is single.
Hey, at least it wasn't that other shot that he was calling out to her on.
Yeah,
Listen,
true.
I literally, when people were like, "Oh my God," I was like, "Y'all, he was just flirting with her."
I'm telling you,
exactly right.
He is the Casanova of Hollywood that people forget about. Like,
didn't he tell Jamie Lee Curtis in their Actors on Actors that his like sex night was Tuesday? It was
Emma Thompson. Emma Thompson.
I mean,
that was Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson. It was a Tuesday.
That Actors on Actors.
He was just getting.
It was Tuesday. It was just getting ahead. You know what I mean? It was on West Coast time, baby. It wasn't on like East Coast time. You know what I mean? It was still afternoon. So
Nicole is right.
But meanwhile, I just have to say that I'm kind of, and this is going to sound weird, I'm a little bit like proud of the Globes. Like, they were not the worst case scenario that I had feared with their winners. They actually they didn't go the most cynical, typical Globes route with most of their winners. I think some of them were a little calculated, like, we have this PR problem, we need to do something to fix that. But for the most part, they felt like they really were just voting for what they thought was the best and not on a PR front, which is, good for you guys stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it wasn't like a situation where, I mean, Dan, I know you were sort of like out on a limb picking Anna de Armas, and some people were picking Eddie Redmayne. I'm not saying that you wanted that to happen. No,
I didn't want it to happen.
You were thinking the way Globes were usually think, which, I mean, to be fair, since the expansion of their group last year and this year, their picks have been fairly safe. Their picks have been not to say that safe is a bad thing, but for them, they've been safe. Honestly, I thought that most of their winners were really great speeches. They spread the wealth in television like they did, but clearly they went with
they went for Abbott hard.
They went for Abbott hard. They went for White Lotus, which is not surprising. They didn't go for like Dahmer in series. They went for House of Dragon, which is what Erik talked about, which was like, what the fuck?
Made no sense.
I could not believe that I was right about that.
Yeah, that was the one.
Didn't even win that in the first season.
And
the best part of that was how clearly they didn't expect to win. Like,
they were like drunk. They were like drinking all night. Yeah, they were like, we don't want to be up here.
That confused me so much because they don't usually like just award a show in series. There has to be something to back it up. And when Emma Darcy didn't win, I was like, well, there's no way House of Dragon is winning series. And yet,
and
they went for it.
It was Zendaya for second season, and she wasn't even nominated for the first. And
it's very.
The Globes don't usually like to play catch up to the Emmys.
They did though with Abbott because Quinta winning,
even Quinta won,
which was kind of surprising, even though like.
No, that was a big surprise.
No, I'm saying it was a big surprise, but then it was like, okay, well then that's not a very Globes thing to do, even though Jeremy Allen White won for the Bear, which is exactly a very Globes thing to do. And I went, okay, well then my prediction of the Bear is correct. And then they went in for Abbott. And I went, oh, okay. Well, then they just really.
The TV winners overall were pretty young, skewed too.
Yeah.
Very young.
That's why I said they were mostly.
Yeah, Tyler James Williams.
I can't believe that I was right about that.
Which is very rare for someone in a comedy show to beat the drama side.
Yeah,
at least they split. Yeah. At least that's like two categories now. Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Julia Garner won.
And that's another one. She finally, after she won 3 Emmys,
that made no sense at all.
No, I thought if she was going to win for anything, it was going to like weirdly upset and
The
convincing Anna. Yeah. Do not have time for the Globes. But no, I thought that they did a good job, though. It really is interesting because a lot of the people that were predicting, a lot of the prognosticators that were predicting, like I ultimately went with them, and I shouldn't have. I should have just stuck with my initial instinct of the Fablemans. But going with Elvis, going with Top Gun Maverick, and you see the way that those films, though, this week have, I mean, those are films that didn't get into SAG Ensemble. They got into PGA. One got into DGA. And you've heard this rapture for especially Elvis from this critic screenings and everything. I just started thinking to myself, I was like, no, this is exactly kind of what I thought it was the sort of big response to it is so that then the performance gets pushed over the top rather than maybe the whole film as a whole. I still think Baz is like in the 6 through 10 range for director, for sure. But like, I think then also too, this is what happens when we see some awards on a televised event get handed out. Some clarity comes into play. You get a ton of new nominations that really help out. And then you start seeing where the industry really do love things. And that's where you can go to SAG. When we move over to SAG here, is some things that they loved, clearly, some people that they love, and some people that they don't, and some movies that needed it, and some movies that missed and are hanging on by a thread, it feels like, as we're heading into the final stretch, like A Woman King missing, Glass Onion missing this one, but getting PGA. We'll talk about that here in a sec. What did you guys think of? Let's start with like just your general thoughts, Erik, old wise one of you. What did you think of SAG, especially even the ensemble picks and how they translate?
Well, I thought it was very rude to have SAG nominations early in the morning after the night of the Golden Globes. That was super rude.
That was violence.
They need
on Instagram
they need
Live.
to stop doing the Instagram Live thing. But
I hated the presentation of it too. Like, just have them read it. I don't need this banter in between. I love Haley Lou Richardson, but like, my God, I was getting frustrated.
She was horrible.
I was angry.
She was just like a fangirl. Like, oh my God, can't believe I'm doing
this. They almost lost their papers.
Do I read
halfway through it?
Whatever. Anyway, but it's so funny that it was almost getting lost that an hour before the nominations were announced, because we still had no home for the SAG Awards, it was revealed
that
Netflix and SAG has signed a multi-year deal to show the ceremony.
Yeah,
which was shocking yet totally inevitable.
Yeah.
So officially it begins next year, but this year's ceremony will stream on Netflix's YouTube channel. And then next year will be a more produced,
more hands-on for them, or a more big thing. Well, I mean, they'll still have it in the ballroom this year and everything.
Yeah, it's gonna probably look a little bit low key and not like a bigger, fancier award show, but next year it will. So I thought that was amazing, and of course that led to people immediately saying, "Is this legal?" And are we going to get tons of Netflix nominations now? Was this pay for play? And I'm like, do you guys not understand that every single award show is on a network that has multiple platforms, as well as
I think the
movie studios and all of that?
Yeah, I think the thing about it is that those studios have other entities that are surrounding it. I'm just saying, from those people's perspective, I don't agree with it, but they're saying like Universal, ABC, CBS, all these other places. They have their giant studios or giant companies, not just their studios, as opposed to just Netflix, where they are just a entertainment studio. And I get that, but also like they were the ones that picked it up. The other ones didn't. So
and they could have. They have networks and streamers and plenty of opportunities. And
I mean, it's not like that a bunch of 8 NBC shows have been nominated tons and tons of times. When the Globes happen, we don't see like 10 Disney Marvel movies get nominated for Best Picture every year. Like it's an absurd thing to think.
The worst thing that happens with award shows when they're attached to a certain network is then you get stars of shows that are coming up that are like, that seems a little weird. It's like, oh, wait a minute, they have a show coming out in 2 months. Then it's like, who cares? They're presenting.
Yeah.
Who cares?
That's the star from Chicago PD SVU.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Presenting Best Picture, but it's like,
What?
Well, my understanding is that SAG members also found out when that news broke and had not been told beforehand about the Netflix deal.
Oop.
Yeah, which is not a great look. Like, because obviously it would have, you want for your members to be standing behind a decision like that. And it's hard for them to do that if they're not finding out ahead of everyone else.
Just an email, a simple email is okay.
But it's also
even the day before.
It's also an extremely somebody would have leaked it though.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very, very tight and strong union though. So that decision wouldn't have been made without the top brass of the union agreeing on it. But yeah, they wouldn't have been able to
also too
reveal that the day before.
Yeah, the influencers also that are in part now with SAG. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to trust them with this vital multi-million-dollar deal news. You know what I mean? Like
they don't understand things like spoilers and like recording video in movie theaters and stuff like that.
So
they're like, I'm gonna make a sound. I need to go viral.
So, but no, I think it's a good deal. It's a really good deal for SAG because I think that it'll get them probably better eyes on it, and you can pick apart the clips later on, and YouTube is a good spot to start for this year. And it also proves that, Netflix is going to use YouTube to spread their clips just like NBC does, just like ABC does, and make it a part of it. And also it's not a big deal. It's actually a really good thing because they give a crap about this. They won't have to care about numbers, like viewing numbers or anything like this. They just want to stream it. They want to have
numbers.
Platform.
You'll have numbers on that are visible on the streaming, so it won't be the same as like saying Wednesday just clocked in 2 billion minutes.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure.
Yeah. Which whatever that means.
And Netflix going even into live entertainment, they're doing the Christmas special, doing something different than what they've done is not a bad
it's a smart move. I mean, Disney Plus just did the whole Elton John concert as well too. They're getting into that field. So I mean, it's really, honestly, it is the quote from Moneyball that Brad Pitt says, which is adapt or die. Really, in this industry.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
that's what I said to somebody on Twitter about that exact conversation. But it is funny how cyclical everything is, because something like Netflix wanted to totally, deconstruct film and television and home video and all of that, and it's kind of coming back to.
It's a full circle.
It absolutely is, which is fine.
Yeah, which is great because also too, we know a lot of people over there. They take this very seriously. It's going to be in very loving hands. This should be actually a real celebration, because for months we were sitting here going, well, SAG's not going to mean anything. And now we can all clearly watch SAG and not have to pay for it. So
kind of liking that part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but your thoughts on the nominations, Erik?
Again, great stuff. Some weird snubs, obviously, like Michelle Williams not getting in, and not an issue of category, because at SAG you have to submit into a category. You don't get split votes or anything like that. So Michelle Williams missing was absolutely dramatic and shocking, and Danielle Deadwyler really needed this after missing the Globe, and here we are again, Ana de Armas. So
the blonde of it all,
it's
say what you will about that movie and that performance, but it's a very actor friendly.
It's a biopic too, and they love biopics. I mean, people are gonna have to. I was talking with somebody this week, and I was just saying they are not going to nominate more actresses or actors from original films than they are sometimes when a biopic's sitting right there, no matter how bad the biopic is. They love those performances because it's a transformation. And that movie is definitely a transformation, whether you like it or not.
I think it's
they have there's a metric when you're playing a real person. Like, you can actually go in and say, like, you know, did they actually capture the mannerisms and voice and whatever of this person? And is that, which adds like something of an objectivity to this very subjective thing that we're doing. And I think that's one of the things that helps biopic performances, because there's this, like, you have this standard that everyone can say, yes, they did a good job, or no, they didn't do a good job. Whereas other things, when you're not playing a real person, it's more subjective because there's nothing to compare it to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think there's often, though, a very different metric for female performances and male
performances
with that.
Oh yeah.
Because something I keep circling back to with Ana de Armas is actually Rooney Mara in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Got a Globe nomination as well, but there is the scene in Dragon Tattoo of just the most horrific and vicious assault. And Blonde is full of that as well. And voters are drawn to
the visceral,
to actresses that
suffering.
Oh. And it just happens in a way that is not the same for men.
Yeah. The industry loves a tortured woman.
They really, really do.
Whether it's physical or emotional, because I mean, you know, even
Till.
That's Till. I was going to say it. I mean, that's a very hard performance to watch. I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same thing.
Very specific to physical assaults and how voters and people like react to it and look at it.
Yeah, Nicole, this race for Best Actress is just wild. I mean, we have 7-8 people we're all considering right now. I think that Michelle Williams, like Erik said, that's the big miss here, because it's maybe confusion. I don't know. Maybe they're going to have to like restructure how they think going into this week. But what do you have with the category going on right now? I still don't even know.
I'm still like, I'm waiting on a few things to sort of fully have ideas on where I think it's going. Like, I want to see what ends up happening at the BAFTAs and things like that. But right now, I mean, I think the obvious thing is that Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh are in. I'm personally holding on to Viola Davis for now. I know that everyone thinks that she's going to be the person who gets in everywhere and misses, but I'm holding on to her for right now. That movie, you know, I know isn't delivering across all categories, but it is one that made a lot more money than anyone expected it to, and she has been showing up, you know, and it has been popping up in other categories and places. I still think it could get into costumes as well. So I don't think she would be a lone nominee. As of right now, I feel like this nomination really helped Danielle Deadwyler. I think she's still in. And then it's playing around with, you know, like the whole Michelle Williams of it all and not knowing where to put her. I think is really messing with what to do with sort of those spots, just in that she might be in supporting, and if so, like, that really opens up a place in you know, lead, I think. And obviously like we can't ignore Ana de Armas, because she is sitting there. As much as I mean, nothing against her, but I don't want that to happen.
And then there's To Leslie.
Yeah, and then there's To Leslie. Like, I mean, to be honest,
I'm not. I'm just saying it's everywhere right now.
Not happening. Stop trying to make fetch happen.
I don't think it's happening, but I also don't think it's, you know, I think we have to sort of have her in the 10 at this point. Like,
she's in it more than probably like Emma Thompson, or you know, who got Globe, or probably more than like Naomi
I haven't completely
Ackie.
thrown out, and I haven't thrown out Margot Robbie yet. I think she's
No.
still somewhere in the hunt.
Olivia Colman's just sitting at a 10 spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Olivia Colman, because she's Olivia Colman, is still
Colman,
there. Like, yeah. So I really do think that seeing what happens with Michelle Williams is gonna, maybe we'll get some clarity on that at some point soon.
Watch her win Best Supporting at Critics' Choice tonight.
Which, yeah, in a write-in, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I do think that, other than I feel like the two top spots are like very secure, and then it really feels like anything could kind of happen in the remaining three spots. At least right now, it may be that within a month we have more like clarity on what's going on there.
I had a question for everyone because I've been thinking about this too. We usually have somebody that gets BAFTA, SAG, Critics' Choice, Globe, and then misses. Anyone thinking at all that might be either Cate Blanchett or Michelle Yeoh at this point?
No.
Nope.
No.
No.
If
Okay.
it's anyone in this category, it would be Viola Davis.
Which
Just because the Woman King, that it's been a very strange journey for that film.
It really has.
Throughout awards season. It's one that probably I would have thought very easily could have shown up at PGA.
Yeah.
And didn't. It's one that could easily have shown up at SAG Ensemble and didn't.
Could have been in DGA. If
could have been, yeah.
Wanted to nominate women.
Yeah, if
in the category.
I can see somebody trying to make a comparison to Amy Adams missing for Arrival.
Yeah.
Because it's sci-fi and got nominated everywhere else. I'm trying to make like an allusion to Michelle Yeoh possibly.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Although
I was like, where was the sci-fi in the Woman King?
Yeah,
that was like some interesting.
I will say they're bringing...
just looking at your question of Kate or Cate Blanchett or Michelle Yeoh somehow missing and what that scenario would look like, because people are reaching this week because they're making so many crazy declarations.
To us,
I just want to cut that right out.
They are bringing The Woman King back to theaters for another special
this weekend.
Yeah,
so
which is nice.
I think they're still fighting, and so I think they haven't.
I mean, she's everywhere still. Gina's still getting awards too. Like there, I mean, I think with Viola Davis, even if The Woman King doesn't overperform, that movie took how many goddamn years for her to get? She's been talking about it everywhere. It just feels like, Viola Davis feels like somebody that is in this industry where, we talk about Olivia Colman. She's someone too, where like if she's up for stuff, and it's a serious, Oscar push, she usually gets in there. There's not a time where Widows wasn't necessarily the whole Oscar play.
It should have been.
But I do think The Woman King is, how do I put this, more accessible than Widows, let's say.
It's more Academy friendly.
It's more family friendly. And Erik, I could see applying that logic that you were talking about with Michelle Yeoh to Jamie Lee Curtis and her being the miss.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
She is the person I think is going to miss the Oscar.
Well, let me ask a quick question here too, because
I've been giving everyone COVID right during voting.
God damn it, Erik. Yeah, they'll remember that. The trauma of it all.
But also, I don't really think she was the one who infected everyone.
No,
she wouldn't have posted that if she did. Yeah. But it's kind of funny.
But
we're going to be logging in conspiracy theories.
Yes.
But no, I mean, this was the other thing too this week is that, the big thing outside of To Leslie, it feels like, in the whole actress thing is the idea of, with Michelle Williams' snub comes this weird thing that because we didn't see the Lakeith Stanfield thing happen a couple years ago, and usually when things like this happen, when it usually happens, it's very unexpected. So people expecting this Michelle Williams just switch over to supporting actress thing, it's most likely not going to happen. She's going to either get in lead or she's not. But let's play a little devil's advocate here, and let's say she does get in to supporting actress at the Oscars. Is she then the winner?
No.
You think she will still lose to Angela Bassett or somebody else in that category? If that
I think so.
lead performance that everybody was talking about at the beginning of the year is probably locked for her to win, gets put into the place where we all kind of expected her to, without any precursors whatsoever, because she won't have BAFTA, she won't have Globe, she won't have SAG, she won't have Critics' Choice unless, you know, a miracle happens tonight. She could just walk in without all of them. We have the most unprecedented win of all time, if that's the case. Do you guys see that?
I think that it's too late for them to attempt that kind of shift.
I don't think it's that
Narratives have
kind of
already been
performance.
forming. Yeah, I mean, think about this. If she was really like, if she was going to win anything,
Mm-hmm.
how could she miss SAG?
Yeah. Well, she's but
I-
yeah, in the wrong. Which, like Erik said, though, she had to submit and lead.
I know
Right.
she submitted and lead, but like if she was winning in either category,
Yeah.
like
She should have been nominated and lead.
yeah, she should have
if
been
she
at
was gonna
least
win sport.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I
I
also
agree.
think that she doesn't have any kind of narrative, like in terms of a compelling.
The narrative is giving her her first Oscar.
Giving her a win.
But I mean, like, I don't think she has any kind of compelling narrative beyond just like
Yeah,
she doesn't have an Oscar, and like she's young enough that it's like okay, like
yeah.
I don't see her as being someone that I see as super overdue. Like I'm not concerned that I don't think people are.
There's some
concerned that they
people you
won't
talk
have-
to.
Is she
Well,
like
okay, but
how
here's the
old
thing.
is she compared to Kate Winslet when she won?
I
They're
don't think that
roughly around the
people
same age,
are
right?
Yeah.
super concerned that she's not going to have another chance to get one. And I also think
You
that
will.
with this whole like, is she lead? Is she supporting? Is she this or is she that? But I don't think the performance is strong enough for it to be like, no matter where she is, she could win.
No, I'm just saying
Um,
from the standpoint of if she's been campaigning lead, and this is like a performance we've talked about early in the year being, regardless of what you personally think, you know, that it's a top tier best picture contender,
Mhm.
top 3 for sure.
Mhm.
It's a one way to award that film if you're not going to award it in other places.
Mhm.
That category is still not strong. Like even after Angela Bassett winning, like people go, well, would I want to give it to Michelle Williams in like a Fabelmans or a Marvel performance? And people think that sometimes too. Like that's something you have to consider. And Carrie Condon's still very fresh and she could maybe win it, but I doubt it because there's other places it feels like they're going for Banshees other than Carrie Condon. The Women Talking crew have not landed at all in this category. It's
But
very
I guess my question
that's why
then
I'm saying
is-
it's on the table if she gets in for sure, right?
I do think that whenever it comes to Angela Bassett,
But she
there
has
is less of a like, am I willing to reward a Marvel performance because they're willing to reward Angela Bassett no matter
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And I think that also she is someone that there is this question of, you know, not that I'm saying that she's not gonna have a great career from here on out, but like, when will we get another chance to give her an award?
true.
Especially because it is harder for a woman of color to make it into these categories.
It very much is.
Yeah.
And I think
And
that
she made sure that everyone knew this in her Globe speech and
Yes.
pointed it out in the most tactful way
uh-huh.
She was
that
very
she
I
possibly
also
could.
think
It
that
was
the
very-
tie of her to Chadwick does not hurt her.
Yep.
I think that the idea that, you know, this isn't just any Marvel film, this is a Marvel film that she in particular is positioning as this was our tribute to Chadwick. And
Yeah.
I think that everyone remembers that they fucked up and didn't give Chadwick his award. Like,
Well,
And if you are a statistics girl, Bassett is maybe the only one
winner.
that
Yeah.
gets with the supporting actress winner as the
Yeah.
sole winner.
yeah. No, for
So
sure.
Yeah.
she's kind of been there all along. If
Yeah.
Mhm.
They
that
just have to give it to her.
treat-
Yeah.
and there she
Yeah.
is.
I also
Not gonna win anything
I
else.
also do think that
No.
Carrie Condon is still a strong contender, just in that they clearly like Banshees so much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I
just-
think that the
yeah.
support for Banshees across the board is there.
Yes. Yeah.
And particularly if Banshees has its like best day on nominations day,
Which it's looking like it will be.
and
at
I
this point.
think it will. then I think she's still strong. And that, you know, if they clearly go for that film that much, especially like if Banshees gets more nominations than some of the other big picture contenders, then I really will think she's a threat for that. And maybe even would put Michelle Williams at number 3.
No, for sure. It's funny because like last week I was making the case in my Globes prediction of Angela Bassett for the same things you're saying, Nicole, and now I'm like, but it's just a question you have to ask, because if we're living in a crazy time right now where you know anything can happen. You know, we're going to be recording our final predictions episode next week. You know, it's a question you kind of have to ask before you go into that, and I think Bassett is clearly, she's got a narrative. The film's got a narrative for her. It is a very showy performance, and everything too. I mean,
she's got the clip.
She's got the clip for sure. Haven't I not given everything? It was in the trailer and everything. They were going to be out in front with it. And you're right.
They said even if you do not see this film, you will see this trailer and
you will see this. And it will stay
clip.
with you. And one of the best trailers of the year, mind you, too.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, the Chadwick narrative, the fact that she also, it's 30 years after her last Oscar nomination, which is, I think, even more people over time have considered that to be a massive misstep from the Academy, more than even, you know, Boseman and Hopkins a couple years ago. And, you know, it is a year of big cinema. So the fact that a Marvel film finally wins a performance when we've had tons of DC performances win in the past too, in other acting categories, it's not something that people should not consider.
And obviously, like, Black Panther Wakanda Forever is not the film that the first Black Panther was.
No.
But it makes a lot of sense that Black Panther Wakanda Forever would be the film to finally get the Marvel, it's not like it's into the
Ant-Man
acting.
2 or something.
Right. I mean? Well, just the fact that, you know, obviously the Academy liked the first Black Panther.
Yeah.
And they were willing to reward it, you know, sort of looking at it aside from being a Marvel film, I think. And, you know, there is the Ryan Coogler of it all. And I really do. I kind of like, as much as it makes predicting difficult, I like the fact that we don't have a complete lock in any of these categories yet.
Yeah,
you know, we've got a category where things feel a little more settled than others, but where it feels like a surprise could still absolutely happen.
I think supporting actor's pretty locked up.
Yeah, that's
pretty locked up, but it's not locked to the point that like things felt in the year of, you know, Brad Pitt. And Laura Dern.
Daniel Kaluuya. Yeah, well, I mean, I
think they do for different reasons.
I think it clearly
came in as veterans.
Yeah.
Quan just has, I mean, everybody's got some very strong narratives. This is the most narrative driven season
we've had in a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. And narratives that feel actually like deserving and like real, instead of like the very manufactured narratives that you get sometimes.
Very real ones.
Yeah, to Leslie. You know what I mean?
There it is.
Sorry, I'm just hey, you want me to say it?
The passion is real amongst
my friends had a dinner.
Voters.
My friends had a dinner and saw a movie that made like $45 at the box office, and therefore I should get an Oscar nomination. That's how it works, right?
You know, if I wanted to start an MLM, this is how I would do it, and just have all of my friends copy and paste the same statement.
And get Gwyneth Paltrow on board.
She's not even like on Twitter, and yet the Twitter has like an @ symbol to it because it's for Instagram. It's a mess. Speaking, I will go back to just ensemble real quick before we move over to PGA and DGA. Is that we do have 3 front runners. It really feels like at this point, if you're predicting any other movie right now other than Banshees, Everything Everywhere All at Once, or The Fabelmans to win Best Picture, your narrative seems to be very, very weird, in my opinion. Like the Top Gun argument kind of got thrown away this week. The Elvis argument is clearly over, the support's over an actor. You know, Tar is clearly something for actress or screenplay for Todd Field. And then you have like the Babylons, The Whale, Women Talking, where like they had a good week and then they didn't have a good week and then they had a good week. It was like really weird. So I really think it's
feels
between these
like-
three films now.
It really feels like, as of right now, at least, like there's a lot of strong arguments that you can make for any of the films that you just mentioned being number 4. Like there's
For
a
sure.
strong argument that Elvis is number 4. There's a strong argument that Tar is number 4. You know, like, and it really feels like, as of right now, at least. And I do think that obviously, you know, we could see something where on nomination day, one of these top 3 films doesn't get all the nominations that we think it's getting. And then we have to say like, oh, maybe it really is just these 2 that, you know, actually delivered. And the third one is out of the running. But I agree. Like, I think until we get those nominations, and if something weird happens, it feels like we're kind of set with, you have 3 to pick from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And I mean, The Whale had a really good week. And it did.
Which Eric and I have been saying it would, and everyone else needs to get on board.
Well, okay, calm down.
It just passed $10 million.
It has grossed more than Banshees.
It was
going to gross more than The Fablemans.
It
this
outgrossed.
is a hit.
And well, okay, but that doesn't mean that just because it made a bunch of money that it's going to win Best Picture or anything.
No, it's not going to win Best Picture, but
it's getting Best Picture, which puts Brendan Fraser back
right
on
where
top.
he needs to be.
And then, people. When I said that, people were trying to make an argument. Well, Elvis and Banshees is going to get in, and that's good for Colin Farrell and Austin Butler. I'm like, all things are not equal. That's not what I'm saying. And that's
I mean, you think
they were already getting in.
To be fair, you think it's going to get in it at this point. It doesn't mean
it's getting in.
Yeah.
It's getting in. For a movie that small and about that subject matter to get in at PGA, that says something.
I mean, what if it is?
And for Hong Chow to get in at SAG, like that was also not a guaranteed thing.
She also had an incredible year too, as well. So getting nominated for a whole body of work, that really helps.
But you cannot vote for
SAG?
body of work. And
was she a previous nominee for her?
Yeah, she was nominated for downsizing. She got like everything for downsizing.
Yeah. So she's not like an unknown or anything. But also too, it's the fluidity of that race. I mean, like if Michelle Williams, let's just say she does get in randomly there in supporting actors at the Oscars, she gonna get in over Hong Chow? Most likely. So that kind of hurts. You know, who's she gonna kick out then? Jamie Lee Curtis? Well, you said Jamie Lee Curtis. But also too, that movie is really strong. And she hasn't missed, but there go.
Or it could be Stephanie Hsu. It could be either of the.
Yeah, that was a big get. That was a big get for
one that's on the precipice.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. If you've seen that movie, it's crazy that she's
Jamie
the
Lee
one.
Curtis is the
I think that Jamie Lee Curtis is actively bad in that movie.
And she's the only one that's gotten everything.
I love her in that movie.
That's
but
a true lie, right?
That's not a true awards performance in any way. I don't understand.
Good Lord. I think that I have The Whale in right now, but that doesn't mean that it's in my number 9 spot. But that does not mean that I think it's winning Best Actor at this point. I think that the race. Okay, a lot of things happened this week. A lot of things happened in this race this week.
And all of them were good for The Whale.
Okay, sure. You can bang that drum all you want. But last time I checked, he didn't win Globe, so that wasn't good for The Whale. But
he was never going to win the Globe.
Did he win it, though? Did he give a speech, though? I haven't seen him give one. So at this point, no. Colin Farrell.
You've seen him give plenty of speeches.
He given them after Q&As, but not really for a lot of big critics awards so far this year. And Colin Farrell's clearly run away with those. And also too, I think you see the love. You talk about love within the Academy, the Elvis screenings, like we talked about earlier in the episode. That is a big deal. And also, he's playing a real life person, Elvis Presley. Also, too, the tragic news this past week of Lisa Marie Presley. It will be another talk about Eric. You're right. Narratives. It's right after a week after his birthday celebration. She was at the Globes and everything. It's going to be very hard for people not to look at that and be like, well, this is the stars sort of weirdly aligning and we feel terrible for what has happened. And also it's a great performance too, that they clearly are, I think, going to go for. It's a, there's a lot of going for Austin Butler still right now too. And it's not like he went up there and fumbled in his speech or anything. He did a really good job in that speech, like we mentioned. So I think this week totally did help the Whale to continue it from downward spiraling like it was for like the last couple of weeks. But is it enough this week to put it over the top to I think it helps it make it instead of a 2-person race, it felt last week, make it a 3-person race.
I don't think Brendan's winning at SAG though. I think that's going to go to
Austin Butler.
And if not, then to Colin Farrell.
Stronger film too, mind you.
Why?
Yeah, why?
I think what Austin Butler is doing, again, it's a biopic performance. I think it feels very actory performance there. I've talked to some people in SAG who have not watched The Whale and are not planning to watch The Whale. I think that film. And particularly SAG is a union where the gender balance is pretty even, and I know a lot of women who are not planning to watch The Whale or watched it and didn't like it. I really think that Austin has that. I think that it's he's been doing all the circuits. He's well liked, and I think that you could say the same about Brendan, but I think that Austin as Elvis is more of a how do I put this? It's a more friendly performance, and I also think that particularly for SAG, the things that Elvis is saying about the exploitation of actors or performers, is something that's going to appeal to some of them, especially because I think Elvis has some really interesting things to say about the way that performers are exploited, but it does it without pointing fingers at anyone but their managers, which is much more palatable than some of the other films that we have this year that are pointing fingers at exploitation, like She Said, like Babylon even, which, I think are sort of more pointing at all of Hollywood, whereas Elvis sort of lets
Colonel Tom Parker. Yeah.
Exactly. And I do think that it brings up interesting points that we've seen with, I think there's a lot of parallels between Britney Spears and Elvis and things that people care about a lot right now in terms of how performers get exploited. And I think that could be something that appeals to them. I also think that Austin is a performance where you don't have to like the movie to like Austin's performance. And the people that I know who haven't liked Elvis, most of them still have been like, but Austin Butler was great. Yeah. And I don't think that's true for the other actors who are in the running. Like, I think if you don't like Banshees, you're probably not going to be down with what Colin Farrell's doing.
But if you're not in with The Whale, you're definitely not going to be in for his performance.
Not entirely.
I have definitely heard people who don't like The Whale, but they like him. Yeah.
Yes, but I don't think they like him enough to still vote for him.
We will see.
Yeah.
Because Brendan also has a really compelling narrative for SAG of having, not gotten the kind of jobs for years and finally getting it and delivering, and you see the passion coming through for that movie at those screenings. We have all season.
Yeah. I mean, they were early in the season.
And Fraser's disadvantage has been A24 holding the movie back for too long, because they were really targeting the Oscars, and obviously a little worried and concerned about backlash and all of the things. So screeners were not easy, and sometimes did not come in time. And the Gotham loss was a little interesting and odd. It's only 5 people, but at the same time, I mean, that's where you can win with 5 people who have obviously seen the film. But yeah, they held back screeners a little too long. So it depends on also just that visibility. Elvis has been around for a long time, so that visibility is already there. Banshees has been on HBO since December, and The Whale is just it has less visibility, so you have to see it and you have to really want to see it.
You have to very much seek it out. It feels
you have to find it. And
Yeah.
also,
Well, I mean,
it is.
if you're a voter, it's
It's available.
in
Yeah.
your
It's also of the three films
Now,
in that actor race. It is the most challenging watch of the three. It really is. It is, Dan.
It is.
Like
no, I
it is,
only
and it's
say
showing for
no, I
voters,
only
too.
say let me finish. I only say because all of the like normie, like not film people that I have talked to have not liked Banshees. It's
Well,
too weird, too slow, too whatever. Like the whale is kind of like 50-50. Some people just don't want to see it, and I get that, but the people who do see it tend to really love Brendan at least. And a lot of the people I know who are not in film who watch Banshees are like, it was fine, or it was just too weird or too slow for me.
I still think The Whale's a harder watch, though.
Yeah,
like
it is.
Banshees, you don't have to get on its level, but like it's a much
it's a more
harder
challenging watch.
film to watch.
It's a more challenging experience. It's a
most
very
people
tough
that watch Banshees can't pronounce Colin Farrell's character name.
but I bet you they can pronounce Colin Farrell, and that's all that matters.
They're just calling him Colin Farrell.
Like, Colin Farrell's great.
It's
Bingo,
literally
that's
about
it.
Colin and
Don't
Brendan,
need-
whatever
you
their
don't need
names
a
are. It
freaking-
doesn't matter.
And if that's going to be the case, well, then I'm pretty sure they can pronounce Elvis Presley. Then if that's
Listen, they remember Jenny the Donkey, and that's the important.
And that's
part.
all
It's the
that
only
matters.
name
Jenny
you
the
gotta
Donkey,
know.
the true best actress.
Best supporting actress. Let's
Move
go.
over, Kate Blanchett.
Yeah. No, but I think that I think also too the thing that helps Colin Farrell is the film has been more celebrated, and it is in SAG Ensemble, which the other two isn't. And
Which is good.
I keep going back to this in my head because I haven't seen it in a long, long time. So somebody's going to have to do the research and find it. A studio winning 3 acting prizes, particularly in the modern era, is a very, very rare thing. And also, too, if you have Everything Everywhere winning Best Picture, and you have it winning director, and some people even have it winning screenplay, and Ki Kwang, it doesn't also bode well for it also winning then Best Actress, because if you look over the expanded sort of lineup of the last couple of years, the last 10 years, as I've gone back at least that far when we've had the staggering lineup or the 10, Best Picture winners for acting wins have either won 0 or they've won 1. They have not won multiple. So that's not saying a stack like that can't be broken. But what I'm saying is that this Academy has shown over the last many years to spread a wealth over studios and performances. And so we will see. It's a very tight race between those 3. I just still think that even though The Whale had a good week, like Banshees and Everything Everywhere and a bunch of other films have had really better weeks and continuing to have those better weeks. That's all I'm saying. But Pete,
they Banshees and Everything Everywhere had exactly the weeks that
they
been
needed
having leading up to it. So they didn't have better weeks. They had the exact week that they were expected to have, which is
weeks.
why The Whale's overperformance is a better week. They've had exactly the same.
They've had great weeks.
And all of that you said, Ryan,
they've had great weeks.
All of that you said, Ryan, is true if you think Everything Everywhere actually is winning all those awards, and that it wasn't, as I've been saying, the Fabelmans all along.
Well, I will say, no, that's correct, Dan. I mean, like the sort of jumping of ship of the Fabelmans because of a lot of things like the BAFTA long list. And I think it getting into SAG Ensemble was a big deal for it because of the fact that a lot of people were saying it was going to miss, but then Michelle Williams kind of counterbalances that a little bit.
And then Paul Dano gets in.
Paul Dano gets in that cast.
Opposite world.
Yeah, but then of course,
Eric, you remember being at TIFF and everyone being like, "Well, Judd Hirsch is winning the Oscar."
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
My God,
not happening anymore. You know what I mean?
People were
unless he gets on BAFTA,
losing their mind.
So, well, let's go over to PGA and DGA real quick. I think these lineups were really interesting for PGA because of the fact that 4 sequels out of the 10. That is the wild thing. That's where I think also too, PGA might be fibbing on itself a little bit. Clearly, I think there's like 5 films that are pretty safe going forward, and that's the 3 aforementioned Best Picture front runners, if you want to call them that, and I think Elvis and Tar are pretty much locked in at this point. It would be shock if both of those potential winners for their respective acting categories miss at this point. And then there's 4 other spots you could kind of go with. I mean, Avatar seems to be one that's pretty close to being locked in. And then there's 3 other spots. Obviously, Erik and Dan seem to be very strong on The Whale, but that's not a gimme. There's Glass Onion. There's All Quiet on the Western Front that didn't make it in, but is very much on a lot of long lists and short lists and this list and that list, Christmas lists. It feels like.
Apparently, if it translates into nominations like it did on the short list, seems very popular with the Brits.
Yeah, very much so. And then there's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. There's Glass Onion. I'm sorry. There's 6 that's probably locked up because I didn't even mention Top Gun Maverick, which is probably locked in more than anything.
Definitely locked.
Yeah, so that's part of the 6.
I was waiting for it.
Sorry, that's part of the 7 then I think that are locked in, and then there's 3 spots that we're playing around with. So where is everyone sitting at? Because it feels like you guys have The Whale locked in, so you have 2 spots to play with. Nicole, are you sort of sitting there with The Whale getting in right now? I have it at 9, but I'm 9 or 10, but I'm very shaky on it.
I have The Whale at 11 right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, like to be clear, I have The Whale at 10. Like it's very much on the bubble. I do think it's in, but that's only because above it, I think that Babylon can Nightmare Alley its way to a Best Picture nomination with the addition of, I do think Brad Pitt stands a very good chance of getting in supporting actor. And once you have the actors on your side, that's really all you need, kind of.
Yeah, they had that SAG ensemble, but then also too, the SAG ensemble nominee, Sarah Polley's Women Talking, which seemed like a movie that is, oh my God, the story of women talking
has been wild with that movie.
I still think it's in. But obviously one of those like last 3 spots.
It's my number 10. It's my number 10 because it got SAG ensemble. And then I have All Quiet on the Western Front. So I have All Quiet on the Western Front, The Whale, and Women Talking. But I can totally see a world where it could be Glass Onion. There will be, I think, a Netflix representation in this. There will be a representative from Netflix. I do think that that's the case.
I don't know, because you look at it, like, I think Glass Onion is the more like popular movie. All Quiet has been doing really well with the short lists, but just because you're doing well with the short list doesn't guarantee a
I agree. That's why I think the counterbalance of having All Quiet on the Western Front, if it doesn't do well, then I think that Glass Onion can pick it up because it is such a populist film. People do love it. I think it will get into screenplay. Janelle Monáe could easily still get in one of those spots, and she's like part of the 6 or 7 people that could get into supporting actress. Yeah, if I'm not saying she's gonna win, but I'm just saying she could get in there. Maybe it pulls something else with it. I don't know.
Yeah, my thing with All Quiet is that I think it's going to do pretty well in some of the tech categories, because it also is, Top Gun Maverick aside, because it kind of counts, but it doesn't. It's the war movie of the year. Yeah. And in a lot of those tech categories, you got to get your war movie in for your sound and for, things like that. And so I think it could slide in because it also serves as the Netflix representative and the foreign film representative. Yeah. And it's a war film. Like, I think that all those things sort of coming together bode well for it. And it has been overperforming in a lot of places on a lot of short lists. And again, I think if with the BAFTA nominations, if we see it get the kind of support that the short list gave it, then I definitely think it stands a chance, because it, while it is a foreign film, first of all, it's a foreign film, but it's German. But I also think it is in many ways sort of a very traditional war movie, Academy Affair type of thing. Previous
Best Picture winner sort of thing, remake that kind of.
I agree with all of that. in theory. I'm just like right now, like, yes, all these things make sense to me, but like we already know there have been lots of films that do really, really well with the shortlists that come up with goose eggs on Oscar morning.
Yeah.
Or
And
underperform big time, like a No Time to Die sort of situation.
Yeah, exactly. And we have things like, I just like we've sort of set aside this, international feature slot in picture and director based on what we've gotten the past few years. This has been trending that way. But the thing that has happened those years with Another Round, Drive My Car, Cold War, all these things, like they've been consistently showing up as nominees at the big award shows throughout the season, so that when we get to the Oscars, they really feel like inevitable. They are the breakthrough title, like they are the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, And this year, we haven't had an international feature crossover front runner. There has not been. We thought it may be Decision to Leave, that kind of flop. We thought it would be All Quiet, and All Quiet's done well, but it hasn't actually been winning anything or getting consistently nominated in above the line non-international feature categories. So it's like, is there enough love for that movie when it comes to the Oscars? There could be, and especially if it does really well with BAFTA nominations, but I don't see the thing that's making me say, yeah, that's definitely in for picture.
That makes sense.
Yeah, actually, check back with me on the 19th when we get those.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
and they're all actually competing with Triangle of Sadness, which is an language film, but feels like a foreign language film.
Well, and that is one that has played really, really well at screenings. Buzz has been like super duper quiet on it, but when I was at the Cinema Eye Honors this week for documentary filmmaking, I was talking with people, about what did you like this year? What are you voting for this year? A lot of people really like that movie.
But I will say, if you like that, and if you're like actors or directors, why didn't that movie show up at DGA? Why didn't that movie show up at SAG? Where has that movie
been?
So therefore, I don't trust it at this point. I don't.
Exactly.
That's a movie. You know what?
But that's another one that the Brits could save. Like Harris Dickinson could find his way in that Best Actor lineup. Dolly DeLeon could find her way in. Yeah, Ruben Östlund.
But also too, that's a movie also that feels like, I don't know. You get to a ballot and people, it happens. You get to a ballot and you say, man, I really love that movie in a conversation, because somebody else in the conversation said maybe another movie you liked or whatnot. Then you get to a ballot and you go, yeah, but I really want to prop up this one, or I really love this one. And we all do it. We get to our ballots and then we end up putting things over the top that, we may not be the 100% favorite, but it's the thing that we're like, man, I really love that thing. Last thing I saw kind of thing too. Triangle of Sadness just feels like a movie that's like, it's there in the plethora of films you can consider, but I think that there are other films like The Whale, Avatar, Black Panther, Women Talking, The Woman King. I
don't think The Woman King is dead yet.
No, I mean, like All Quiet on the Western Front. We mentioned. I mean,
Babylon.
Yeah. I mean, these are some big films, and we're just like Neon, which really hasn't done particularly well like they usually do this year, and are really great at campaigning. Like that movie should. I mean, Dolly's everywhere, but it doesn't feel like it's landing everywhere. And that's, something that I think you can consider with it. I mean, I don't think Women Talking's out of it, because if Women Talking's out of it, I have to consider what else is winning adapted screenplay, I think, at this point. And it would be The Whale then at that point.
There. And as much as I love that movie, I have a really hard time seeing that. Like
winning adapted screenplay.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think, but also too, like I sit there and go, what if this is just the year where, if let's say The Whale misses and Women Talking miss, then we could have it.
Oh, picture.
Yeah. Let's say they miss both picture. Then it's a year where, What do we
Glass
do with
Onion?
adapted screenplay? I mean, maybe it's Glass
All
Onion.
Quiet on the Western Front.
Maybe it's All Quiet on the Western Front. Maybe it's Pinocchio.
It did win the MBR, like
you know?
Yeah. I mean, I do think there is.
That's going to send people into Top Gun Maverick predictions because
God,
it'll be
no.
the only Best Picture nominee.
That's true. If it gets in,
And-
if
and-
it gets in.
You know what I'm.
Yeah,
saying.
I know what you mean.
I
I know
do
what you
think
mean.
that if we're talking about a world where both women talking and The Whale miss picture, it is possible then that you do have Glass Onion or you have All Quiet or
She
something
said.
else in picture and in screenplay, and that's what rises.
Or it just ends up being something that wins adapted screenplay without a Best Picture nomination, which would be crazy in the modern era, but it's not out of the
I
out of the
especially
realm of
think that can
possibilities.
happen if Top Gun Maverick is the only.
Yeah, because I don't see people
Yeah.
voting for that.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine?
I can't.
Hold my hand, indeed.
But look like-
being a nominee and losing to Top Gun Maverick at the Oscars.
I would quit. I would literally be like, time to go to Target.
I would be
Right.
like right to the bar.
I mean,
But like when you think
Yeah.
about it, like the WGA for adapted screenplay,
Yeah.
what are they going to have
What are they
to
gonna have?
nominate? Like
because
I-
what's
that
ineligible?
alone-
Everything.
Everything.
like everything.
Yeah.
The
Women
Whale is
talking and-
ineligible,
and,
women talking.
Banshees, I don't think is eligible.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Banshees
we are
is not. The Whale is not.
Yeah.
Living is not.
I don't think All Quiet
not.
is.
All
Yeah.
Quiet isn't. Yeah, it's
So,
like
yeah, it's gonna
everything in
be
adapted screenplay.
Glass
like,
Onion,
it's
Yeah,
Glass Onion.
will be there. Pinocchio, Top Gun will probably be there.
Marcel the
and
Shell.
we get a chance for Bones
That's
and all.
ineligible.
Is
We
that
do get a
ineligible?
chance for Bones and all.
That's
Yeah.
Bones and all. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Oh,
The Batman, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's gonna be even weirder than normal WGA years.
Yeah,
it's
gonna be- but
Just
also
because
too,
nothing's
Like
eligible.
nothing is eligible for that. It's insane.
Don't we get those nominees though after
The
Oscar
Good Nurse.
nominees?
Oh yeah, they're
Yeah.
after the Oscar nominations.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they might not
Roughly.
technically
So they
matter in
don't-
terms of nominations, but they could
No,
matter
they're
for
not
a
going to
win.
matter at all. They're going to exist as a like
thing.
fake.
Well, I mean,
I
well,
do think they could tell us something about winners.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think
depending.
with so
USC
many big
Scripter
titles out of
will
the
be
running.
more interesting than
Yes.
WGA.
I
Well, I mean, last
And
year.
that's where I think Sarah Polly could make a big
Yeah,
comeback.
For last
I'd be shocked if she lost there.
Yeah.
Where at?
Yeah.
Oh, at
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 A
USC.
scripter.
at Scripter. Yeah, and I would be shocked if she lost tonight at CCA. To be honest with you, that just feels like
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's a thing of like if CCA,
unless they
does
go
the
over
whole,
Glass
like, we
Onion.
predict the Oscars thing, like, yeah, what do they put if it's not women talking?
Glass
I-
Onion, because the whale did get nominated, didn't it?
Did.
It did,
What
right?
all
Because
did
it
they
had
nominate?
three. It had three there.
Mhm.
So that would be something. And again, that voting ended 48 hours ago. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Did
I
they
mean,
nominate Top Gun Maverick?
They did not.
They did
Okay.
not. No.
We're
No,
safe from
the
that. at
Whale,
least.
Living, Glass Onion, She Said, and Women Talking. So that's Sarah.
That's Sarah Polly.
Yeah.
Because even
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
I'll
it
say
has
this,
to
even in
be.
years when it didn't go, like they still gave Gillian Flynn for Gone Girl. Like they still went that route early in the
Beale
race.
Street won this.
Beale Street, you know what I mean?
Yep.
They've gone that route and been wrong there before. When it comes to then the Oscars, I don't think they care about adapted screenplay being right nearly as much as Best Picture, but I think that's how most of us feel when we do our predictions. But let's what do we think right now is winning PGA?
The Fablemans.
Okay, Eric,
Oh,
preferential ballot.
I know.
That's why I'm saying the Fablemans.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's going to be one of the top three, and I'm not going to predict Top Gun to win PGA.
you sure?
Yes, I'm not.
All right, all right, Goose.
I'm not a lunatic.
All right.
Obviously, it's going to be to Leslie.
Right in
Getting
ballot.
the honorary
There it
Oscar
is.
for two
Meg-
Leslie.
The
Eric, it's going to be Megan. She
the
has
overwhelming
already killed
power
everybody.
of Leslie Anon is going to infiltrate. Oh
my
Oh
what's
my
wrong
God.
with you?
Oh Lord.
yeah, I will say Fablemans. because I stuck with that and Spielberg at the Globes, and that paid off.
All right, Nicole.
Yeah, I
Just PGA. I'm not saying Oscar yet. We got a
But
whole
really, it
couple
should
months.
be everything. That was a box office and critical hit. That's a perfect PGA combo.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. But like,
I'm feeling everything everywhere all at once.
But also, that's
I'm
like
gonna
a
go
movie.
with that.
I might actually do that.
it could very easily be everything everywhere, and I'd prefer it. But on a preferential ballot,
You're right.
people
And that's
do
why
not
I
like that movie.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
that's
telling
why
you,
I
it's
also
it's a movie.
I can
They
also see Banshees doing well on a preferential ballot.
like the people that really love that movie really love it, but also like I don't. But here's the thing, Dan. I know I saw that look, but I think you could agree with me on this. I've had this encounter where yes, people may be a little uneven on Banshees and might not love it. They like it. I don't love it.
mm-hmm.
I've come across a lot of people that have like with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I didn't finish it,
Yeah.
which is also like the
Yeah.
worst part about it because like the back end is way better than the front end.
Yeah.
will
I've
say
had a lot of people
Eric's-
come up to me who turn it off after 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I
Eric's
think that's
argument
bad for a
about-
Best Picture winner.
Well, Eric's argument about box office is the one thing that has me thinking, like at PGA specifically, considering that both Banshees and Fablemans did pretty damn poorly at the box office. Like,
Yeah, but
They-
Well,
you know,
Banshees
they're-
did really well, but that was because it was only limited release.
Well, yeah,
Fablemans
but
went
you know what I mean.
wide, and so they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it
the
didn't matter for
narrative, yeah.
Coda, obviously. That didn't
Yeah.
matter.
didn't
Yeah.
matter for No Man Land.
because that
Yeah.
and
turned-
I
that
that's
was
the kind of thing that like
They don't
I don't
factor
consider
box
that at
office
the
in all the
Oscars
time.
as much. Well, and I don't consider that at the Oscars as much, but I think like with PGA specifically, that
They
is
did-
something that I factor in.
I mean, you're right, Nicole. I mean, they did kind of factor in, it seems like box office successes more than better films this year with their lineup.
Mhm.
But then when it comes to the lineup, then I think it's also a little
Yeah.
bit different too, where they're like, well, yeah, we nominated it. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's our winner. It's my, I'm they start getting into that mode there too, where usually whatever goes with PGA most of the time that ends up winning picture because of the preferential ballot. And I don't know. I mean, I could see Everything Everywhere doing really well here. And then I think that once again, it's like another thing too, where I think it was really good for that movie not to win every Globe and become become the villain. And I think actually every film did that because there was no overwhelming winner at the Globe. You know what I mean? Like, yes, Banshees won 3, but it wasn't like it won 4. The same with Fableman, same with Everything Everywhere All at Once, that won 2 apiece. So I think that they're all still kind of like on the same field. And I'm gonna go with Everything Everywhere All at Once right now.
I'm actually gonna switch to that.
I think I'm gonna go with it
That-
now, but that doesn't mean I think it's gonna win picture. I think it's gonna be like one of those situations where it might be more like a 1917 thing where it's like where it's like it wins at this part, but then it changes in like a couple weeks.
Except Everything Everywhere is,
But it fits a narrative of fitting right in the middle
it's in
between
a
both.
very unique place
Yeah.
where it gets to be a front runner and an underdog at the same time.
True.
Yes,
That's-
this is very, very true.
Nobody else has that distinction.
Yeah.
And
That's
they also have the cast that is giving them all of the Coda feels as well too. So it's
Yeah.
really, it's hitting every possible place that it needs to hit in terms of emotional pull for a voter and the thing
True.
they vote for and why they vote for. But really it is for me the underdog and front runner status that it gets to be. And
true,
that-
but I think that the thing about it is, for me, still is the fact that they got to finish the film. They got to finish watching the film. There's a ton of people that are going to have it high, and they're going to have a ton of people that have it low. If this was a straight plurality vote, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think wins. This is a
Oh,
different-
yeah. I
different
would
type,
agree with
yeah.
that.
it's
But
still
if-
preferential though, so number 2s and 3s are still going to count.
That's if something else
They
doesn't win
could,
on the
depending
first
on what
wave.
you have above
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
don't see Fableman's being, at least for people in the industry, very low. And in the industry, they clearly love Banshees because they've over-nominated it. And I know that Everything Everywhere All at Once has done really well. But then, of course, there's the Top Gun Maverick of it all. No one's going to put that at 10. You know what I mean? Like, because people love that movie. Talk about something that, you know, people like, I saw that movie 7,000 times in theaters. You know what I mean?
Can we just say also how weird it is, though, to have 4 sequels in a PGA?
It's nuts.
So, but they all had that magic combination of critical acclaim and box office success.
Even Glass Onion for the week it was there.
If you're going to have a year with 4 sequels, it should be these 4 sequels.
It's the kind of thing where it's not like there's one of them that I think is like super undeserving of being on the list. Like I see how each of them got in. It's just so weird.
It's very weird.
I would have
all 4 got in 1 year.
I would have
Well, and they're all different types, you know, they're all different sequels too. Like one is a, you know, like Glass Onion is a non-franchise quote unquote sequel. Like it's becoming one, but it wasn't really. You have the Marvel representation with Wakanda Forever,
Big Jim,
but also it being the sequel to Black Panther. Like
the first one to get a Best Picture nomination and a big deal just in general. And then you have the Lego sequel with Top Gun Maverick, which I think that is easily the best version of that we've gotten so far.
True. That's the one where it's an improvement.
Yeah, and then you have Way of Water, which is, you know, like
then you have Big Jim.
Yeah,
Big Jim Cameron, who you never bet against.
And it's the sequel to the highest grossing film of all time that hadn't been out in 13 years. You know what I mean? Like,
and it truly is like a technical marvel. Like
literally.
And it's about to become the second highest grossing movie.
Yep, like it's gonna be
And I just maybe
maybe it gets up there.
I could give it even more money.
Yeah, I love that movie. It was great.
Literally spent my whole time watching Plane yesterday, going, "Why am I not watching Avatar: The Way of Water instead?
Exactly. Why am I not putting on glasses on glasses?"
McQuade just said, "Love that movie." It's
great. It's in my top 30 of the year. Yeah, it's in my top 30 of the year. I love it. Big Jim was in my personal 5 for director this year. Let's go.
That truly warms my heart.
Yeah. Those whale sequences. Oh my God.
I also have to say that, like, you know, it is the sequel that I think is actually saying something, because obviously Big Jim is like, let's talk about the environment. Let's talk about
Glass Onion's
the military industrial complex.
I think Glass Onion's saying a lot.
Yeah, I think it's saying something too.
The Glass Onion only got more timely as time has gone on.
It got timely right at the time of release. You know what I mean?
But you could talk about Avatar's anti-military stance and Top Gun's pro-military stance existing side by side, but we don't have to do that.
Let's not.
Well, I don't know.
Just saying.
A little more nuanced.
Just saying.
I rewatched Top Gun Maverick recently, and it got me in the feels.
And listen, and I say that as someone who loves Top Gun Maverick, but it is one of those things where, like, I think about it a little more.
I don't think it's as like. Oh. I don't think it's as pro-military as
you know what the original Top Gun did?
Not as it could have been, but
the numbers of men signing up.
Yeah, I don't think. But also too, I think people were a little bit more awake than they were back then. I don't see the numbers going up.
No, I mean, one was still as the Cold War was raging, and we were in a very Republican-dominated United States.
Yeah.
Yes, they were also. It was very easy to identify your enemies and your villains because it wasn't going to impact your box office. That's why the sequel has an invisible villain and a no country name.
The villain is John Hamm.
Yeah, so exactly. So that everybody,
it's John Draper.
Like, you know, this movie can make $100 million in my country.
Yeah, also too, volleyball signups went up big in the 80s as well. So, you know, men's volleyball became the sport of the century.
Yeah.
Short men can still spike, apparently.
Yeah. All right. Last thing we'll do, and then we'll get out of here, is DGA real quick. I feel like this wasn't too big a surprise. No. Besides, maybe it's interesting now what we think will get snubbed. Because usually DGA does not carry all 5 over.
We know what's getting snubbed. I know what's getting snubbed.
I know what's getting snubbed.
I don't know about you.
I don't know about you.
I know who's getting.
I know who's getting. I think we should all know who's getting snubbed here.
Do we?
Yes.
Well, let's just say that you better know who's getting snubbed here.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think Kaczynski's getting in for Top Gun Maverick.
I
No, he's
think
not.
I don't know. Like, I feel like Nicole and I are on the same page here. Like, if that movie, if it is a top 5 for Best Picture, I could still see Kaczynski getting it.
I believe that this could be a year where it goes not even 4 out of 5, but 3 out of 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Who else do you think gets out?
I could see a world where I think there's a lot of things going on here. Like, I think there's still a world where Sarah Polley gets in. I think there's still a world where, particularly depending on what happens in the next couple of weeks with the box office, where they nominate Big Jim.
Big Jim, let's go.
I think there is a world where Baz Luhrmann and Damien Chazelle are both still there fighting, and they're both doing about 1,000 events a week.
I think more Baz than Chazelle at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I have Baz over Chazelle, but he's clearly out there fighting for it.
I got you. There's the international person of it all, the Edward Berger, the Park Chan-wook,
Edward Berger, yeah,
the Ruben Östlund,
the SS Rajamouli of it all.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
I know this week was rough for us RRR fans. Like, it was a big long shot, but like they could have really done something, and they didn't. That was disappointing. I still don't understand how it won Best Song at the Globes, but not Best International Feature. Literally, the only thing that makes sense is just like Argentina 1985 is the most middle of the road of that bunch, and it's still a good movie, but like it is the most
of those nominees.
Accessible. Yeah,
it's the.
I would have put Argentina at number 5 in predictions at the Globes for that.
Yeah, so there's no way you put it above any of those other 4
with all those other.
It's also very not Globesy, but I do think that there's a world where
Ricardo Darin is a big star.
Yeah. I think that there's a world where the carryover from DGA is the directors of the big 3 films, and both Kaczynski and Todd Field miss. I think that Todd Field is someone who's more likely to carry over, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's a world where he misses and 2 other people get in instead. Like, I have him hovering around my 5th, 6th spot.
And it would be at this point in the season shocking, but there's also a world where the Academy says we don't do directing duos unless they're the Coen brothers.
Yes.
And the Daniels are the surprising snub.
And then it helps
for that matter.
Over the top.
Well, one would hope. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Well, it would. I think it would. Well, and then it would kind of line up with Coda. Would line up with Green.
Well, that is one of those things where if it does happen,
missing director,
I think that puts it.
Eric,
that pushes it to an original screenplay win, because you're going to want to reward them.
Yeah,
that's a fallacious comparison, Ryan.
Argo,
comparing Coda and Green Book to
Argo,
that doesn't really work.
Director misses.
Those two movies are like pedestrian.
I am not comparing the quality. I'm talking about.
I think there's a world in which
are pedestrian down the middle. Anyone could direct the movies. That you can't say that about everything everywhere.
No.
Yeah.
So
that is a visionary.
Not a fair comparison.
I think there's a world in which the snub on Oscar morning is McDonough or Spielberg from this category, like as the person that everyone thought everyone else was voting for.
The director's branch has not been friendly to McDonough.
Yeah.
I am not saying that they're the same quality of film. I'm saying that they were misses that then built narratives for the film to win Best Picture, and all those 3 films won fucking screenplay. And
I don't think the Coda narrative was she was snubbed for Best Director.
No, what I'm saying is
it's not the same. It's just
it is. It helps the film, and then it wins SAG on. Okay, so if it misses director, wins SAG Ensemble, wins screenplay and a supporting actor. That's literally the same damn thing. And the whole Academy falls.
Inevitable outcome, but it's for
that's all I'm saying.
Different kinds of movies.
Did I say that they were the same damn film? No, I did not say they were the same damn film.
No,
I said
and
that
I'm
they
not
are
either. But your reasoning doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because
I mean, if they all
Coda
win the
is
same
not.
if they all win the same 3 awards, then at the end of the day, that's how one.
No, because Coda,
No.
Green Book, the movies you're talking about are not that. They did not have a lot of below the line technical support,
also
and
talking
Everything
about Argo,
Everywhere
too.
clearly does.
I mean,
it would be closer to Argo
Yeah,
than
I said
those
Argo,
two.
too. Yeah,
but even
Good
still,
Lord.
Argo. I mean, Everything Everywhere compared to all those movies you mentioned is a from the mind of this person kind of movie.
okay.
The only thing that works against them are being a pair because it is so uncommon.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a pair win director outside of the Coen brothers.
We haven't seen a pair get nominated outside of the Coen brothers.
You know what I mean?
West Side Story.
Yeah, but and talking about like in the modern like sort of era, and it took a while for the Coen brothers to get to that point.
Yeah,
wasn't like the second
it
film.
will be unique.
It will be very, very unique. But I mean, I agree. I mean, like Nicole's kind of right. I think that they could be a snub. Also, it didn't show that like.
I know somebody that is talking about predicting that snub, but I will not mention their name on.
Okay. I think that also too. I mean, you look at the short list, it didn't perform as well as it should have. At least people thought it could have. If it underperforms, if like you think, I don't know, Jamie Lee Curtis misses, if you think that it misses other categories because other films like, let's say Babylon does better in text, or All Quiet starts doing better in text, or, takes away spots from it, or we have some surprise nominations for like a movie like Tar or Banshees or Fablemans has a resurgence there at the Oscars and stuff like that, then yeah, it's going to miss those things. And then you start sitting there and you go, okay, well then what did it get? And then, on a low day, that's the one that it's vulnerable for, not picture or screenplay. That movie, I know that this might also cause an uproar from, so I'm ready to say this. Like, I think it's such an original idea that when people think of originality, they think of the page most of the time. And when they think of this director category nowadays, they think of auteurs, or they think of international people that have come out of nowhere that they want to celebrate. And so like an Edward Berger is not going to get nearly as celebrated on the screenplay side as he would for a director or whatnot. The spectacles have obviously been more celebrated. I'm not saying that some random person can walk out on the street and do what the Daniels did, because they are a very unique, singular voice. But a lot of that also too, a lot of that uniqueness is from their script. And if there is one place that I'm more confident in them getting nominated, it is over in original screenplay rather than probably a best director, if that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Or imperfect sense.
Imperfect sense, maybe.
It makes sense to me, though I will say whenever I hear people criticize the film, the script is often something that comes under criticism. And whereas I think that, even some people who don't like the film, like, respect the vision, respect how much went into sort of making it this big thing. So I also could see it sort of going the other way, and it being them not getting in for screenplay and getting in for director. Like, I think that that's still on the table, just because I do think that that screenplay is something that if people don't like the movie, or even just are lower on the movie, that is maybe the thing that they don't like.
Yeah. But at this point, I don't have any reason to take him out of this at this point. Or Martin McDonagh. I think the movie has overperformed and done exactly, I don't think that 1 year is the same as the last time for Three Billboards as opposed to this one. I think this is actually way better directed film too. And I think that
it's also like McDonagh doing his thing.
Much more so than Three Billboards.
I think obviously Spielberg's in, because even last year we were all like, oh, is Spielberg going to be the snubbed? And it was like, no, it's Denis Villeneuve. We love Steven Spielberg. And and I do think Todd Field is in. I don't see right now, I don't see a world where he's not, because that movie has just overperformed every single place that it has. And I have it in my number 5 right now for picture. And it's super strong, and it's
honestly, Todd Field getting into the DGA lineup feels like a huge win for that film.
That was the big surprise, because he's the kind of guy that doesn't get in there, and then he could get
makes the Oscar list
into the Oscar list. That was a bold choice for that branch.
I wasn't surprised.
A basic.
I love it.
Yeah. I wasn't surprised by it at all. The one I sat there and went, okay, I know you. I knew this was coming somewhere. Was Kaczynski for Top Gun Maverick, and I don't think that that's going to translate because I mean I don't think it is because talk about okay, you know what you want to get on me about somebody that anyone could have directed that movie. I think it's Top Gun Maverick. Honestly, like the thing about Top Gun Maverick this year is that movie got saved by Christopher McQuarrie coming in and rewriting that whole script and changing things up. And Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie, if you just from the last couple of years, them doing Mission Impossible movies and things, they're a team. So if they're ever in trouble, he relies on McQuarrie to come in and save the day. And I feel like that's what kind of happens here.
I also think a lot of what is good about the direction of Top Gun Maverick is not from the hands of Kaczynski, it's from the hands of the flight director.
Correct.
And that team. And I don't say that just because I interviewed him, but
and because he's smoking.
And you can find that link at awardswatch.com. You know.
God, put
when I saw that picture of him, I was like, I'm signing up for flight school.
Yeah.
I want
getting enlisted?
Everyone to recognize what a good job I did with that interview, considering that's who popped up on my screen. But I do think that if anyone's really thinking about it, it's the flight coordinators and the flight director who did most of what is impressive in that film.
Well, I think the editing too. But
I feel like the directing itself is not if people are nominating him for director, it's just because they're rah Top Gun. It's not that they're we think he's super talented.
It's not like James Cameron.
Exactly. It's not the vision of Big Jim.
I'll say this to Nicole's point, because I totally get it. Yes, the allure for the audience is all of the flying and all of the stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think at the end of the day, the director still makes the decisions to either go all in or hold back. And I do think that Kaczynski is so smart about when he indulges the nostalgia and when he doesn't.
Yes.
Because it starts off immediately. It's like, this is actually the opening of the first Top Gun.
Literally.
Yeah.
And then it becomes all of the other things. I just think that his balance was really, really smart.
Did you, Erik, did you watch that movie that he did on Netflix, Spiderhead, this year?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I did.
If you watch that movie, you'll understand. I think not just you, but I think most people would understand that he is a director for hire. And he needs a team behind him. And I think Jerry Bruckheimer, Christopher McQuarrie, and Tom Cruise especially should also get co-director. We should have the first 4 director nominee ever, because he's never made a movie that is this good and this competent and this well made in his career. And it's a lot to do with, I think, the relationship with Bruckheimer, obviously Tom Cruise, McQuarrie coming in. All those things really help this man get it over the top, as opposed to Chazelle even.
Sure. So how do you explain him getting into this field?
Because it's a basic branch. They nominated Peter Farrelly.
They nominate.
I agree, but so then why wouldn't he
McKay
be the one to carry over? You're saying people who also managed to get into lineups at the Oscars.
The directing
Peter Farrelly didn't.
Of the Academy is
Peter Farrelly didn't. Yeah,
is a ton more.
They are more auteur oriented. Yes,
much more.
This feels like also
But if for your auteur pick, you're going with Spielberg and you're going with Todd Fields, why doesn't that leave a spot open for your favorite movie of the year? And that movie is Top Gun Maverick.
No, it does. I mean, it could, but he feels like the weak one.
I'm not sure that I'm convinced that I'm predicting him yet. I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate here.
No, I get you.
I could see him still making it into this lineup just because people love that movie that much.
We could probably go back into Oscar history then for this category and look at action film directors that have gotten in and ones that haven't. When the
James
film
Cameron.
has.
Yeah, James Cameron. Both of those things.
Christopher Nolan is a perfect example of this too. Inception did really well and then he missed,
he kept missing and kept missing.
Look at Denis last year. Even somebody with more of a singular vision on his film, and they still didn't accept him in there. And he's a previous nominee in the category. So, you know, I tend to lean more towards the international pick as well, because that's that until proven other.
But who is the international pick this year? There hasn't been one that everyone has been rallying behind.
At this point,
it really feels like for the international pick for director, you have different camps, lots of little different camps for Park Chan-wook, for Ruben Östlund, for Edward Berger, for any number of people, you know, Marie Kurtzer maybe for Corsage, or, you know, for any of these other big ones that have, you know, made, you know, Hirokazu Koreeda maybe even. Like it feels like there are all these little pockets of support, and in order to get a nomination, you need a big group. I don't think there's any one international director that has that this year.
I think if anyone's going to do it, it's Edward Berger, honestly.
It could be, but only because it did so well with the shortlists. We'll see how well it does with, you know, apparently.
I just mean if anyone's going to pull it out, like, I kind of feel like Decision to Leave is dead in the water. And
that hurts.
It does hurt, but like, I mean,
no, I mean, you're right.
He should have been getting in places.
That should have been the one, but also Mubi. You know what I mean? So,
well, they're just
Mubi's not Janus Films. It's not Neon. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that was Janus Films' first Oscar campaign.
Yeah, but they clearly knew how to do it. You know,
and the team
they got there because the critics' push behind it was so enormous and powerful.
Honestly,
exactly, that is the thing. Like the marketing team, the team doing the PR for Decision to Leave, they're fantastic, and they got both director and actor Park out there early when this came out. It got great response from people, but it just hasn't translated because this is a ridiculously strong year for international feature, and the critics did not push any international features in their best picture and best director categories,
except for New York with Rajamouli.
Yeah, with Rajamouli,
and the only thing that he's gotten.
Yeah,
honestly,
well, he was runner up at LAFCA.
No,
not where he was runner up.
Was he?
He was runner up somewhere else.
I think that also might have been,
but
like a little bit of the momentum stealing there as well, because like I could have easily. I mean, we were talking about early in the year, Eric, you and I, like that's where Park Chan-wook was going to probably start showing up as at New York, and then he didn't. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, and that's kind of part of the thing. RRR came in and stole a whole lot of thunder from other international features, and whether it's that or even female directors, we see kind of every single year, voters and critics have to coalesce around one, maybe two. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. If if everything is kind of splintered, then voters just feel unencumbered by any type of pressure.
Yeah, because I mean that's what's kind of happened with like Sarah Polley, and then there's Gina Prince Bythewood and a ton of female directors.
Yeah, Maria Schrader.
I mean,
Charlotte Wells.
Charlotte Wells.
She got
who has been doing well with debut categories, but they don't have that at the Oscars. Yeah,
it's
although
also,
like After Sun,
she is
After Sun is
the debut director.
I mean, After Sun is one of those things where like, could that surprise on Oscar morning?
I think
there is a world where that makes it into original screenplay with the amount of love that you have for that movie.
I think there's a world where it makes actor and original screenplay.
Depending on what happens at BAFTA, like
I mean,
and Paul is British.
I mean, it would.
Yeah.
I mean, After Sun won an award at the documentary awards the other night. Okay, like people love this movie.
No, they do. I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing this. It's just I need to get over the A24-ness of it all, but I just that studio dominating the Oscars when they haven't in recent past. So maybe, and I know the passion's there, but
yeah, and it's also a very, very small movie. Doing as well as it has this season so far has been a miracle.
Yeah, and that's
it's also one of those things where it's just like it's doing so well because it has that passion.
It does.
And that passion is what gets you Oscar nominated.
I mean, if it gets into like BAFTA picture and director and actor and stuff like that,
that's really what I'm looking for, to see if it gets in anything other than Best Actor, because that's a little bit of a gimme with BAFTA. But
if it doesn't,
they have six slots. So
yeah.
They're very Critics' Choice now.
They're very well. They also do their jury system, right?
Yeah, the jury.
Yeah, where the top 3 is automatic, not top 2 like last year, because last year's total fuck up. They're like, oh no, we need like a real top 3.
They really need to release who the top 3 is and then reveal the other 3. That like make it a whole big deal.
That would be so gross and horrible, but
that would be awful.
Obviously love it.
I know you would love it.
I would like to see it.
I mean, like, it's bad taste.
I'll keep it a secret. I promise.
Tell me more.
It's like back when the International Committee had the save. Like, we'd love to know those numbers, but at the same time, don't announce it until after the Oscars. That's what
but you always knew what the save was.
Well, yeah, like Dogtooth was clearly the save.
Oh my god, I did love that era.
All right, well, that's gonna do it for the show this week. I think that's all the news that's happened this week. Nothing else crazy, I believe, happened. Next week's gonna be a big one because we're gonna be doing our final Oscar predictions, and we're gonna be doing them early in the week. So there could be, we're going to be doing them on the day of BAFTA nominations, right, Erik? I believe is.
Yeah, but we should have those nominations in hand by the time we do it.
Yeah, so there will be last second adjustments probably on all of our part. Maybe not. Just depends on what the nominations look like, and we can stop talking about long lists and we can actually talk about nominations for the damn BAFTAs. But Erik, can you tell everyone where they can find you and all your work on the internet?
Yes, at awardswatch.com, hopefully, and it should be because you are already here.
Do you have a crazy BAFTA nomination prediction?
Emma Thompson for Matilda in supporting.
Okay.
Ooh.
Here we go.
Yes.
This is really why I wanted to have you on, just for these wild predictions every week. This is why we love you, Erik. Yeah, that makes sense when it showed up on that list.
And she's great. Her big number is
it's so good.
Incredible.
Makeup work too.
Look, the woman deserves 2 Oscar nominations this year. But the campus isn't ready to have that conversation.
No, they are not.
And Lashana Lynch deserves an Oscar nomination, but I won't even go there.
She has the range. The range. My God.
I'm telling you, I think every year needs to have like a body of work category now, because so many people are just really doing 2, 3, 4 movies.
I will plug our Oscar Central Awards because I designed them, and we have an actor who showed the most range this year category.
There you go.
And spoiler alert, I think they'll be out by the time this is out, but Lashana Lynch is nominated.
There you go.
Right,
and I didn't even have to bully the team to do it, but I would have. So,
Nicole, can you tell everybody where they can find you and your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Nicole Ackman 16, and you can find my work at AwardsWatch and over at Oscar Central, where I am bullying everyone to love Lashana Lynch. Apparently,
hey, that's not a bad thing.
Not
that's a great thing. No,
yeah,
she was in my personal 5.
Hell yeah!
I gave it my personal winner is Janelle Monáe, but Lashana Lynch
also a great choice.
Yeah. Also a good choice.
Dan Bayer. Oh no, actually, Nicole, I'm sorry. Do you have a crazy BAFTA prediction?
Crazy BAFTA prediction. I don't have like a crazy one BAFTA prediction, but my out there thing is that I think that All Quiet is going to overperform across all categories.
Okay. All right. Dan Bayer. Same stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Dance and Dan on Film, on Letterboxd and Post at Dance and Dan, and my crazy BAFTA prediction. I mean, okay, so I have one that's not so crazy, which is Leslie Manville for Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris and lead actress.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
But then like I and I'm partially saying this just because like it's its last grasp, and it is the best in this category of the year, but decision to leave in editing.
Oh, quit playing games with my heart.
Yes,
It would be
please.
so nice if like we were right all along and just needed BAFTA to push it over the top, that this was the big international play this year.
Maybe so.
Just took the whole entire season for us to get to that point.
God, I would love that. I would love that so much. Yeah, that's really good. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Letterboxd at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find me here, bugging Erik at AwardsWatch.com. That's my job. And over at the playlist, Film Speak and Session Film, all those other places. Crazy BAFTA prediction. I think Daryl McCormick's going to get into lead actor for Good Luck to Julio Grande.
Quit playing games with my heart, Ryan.
I would like to see it.
I would love to see that.
We did see it.
Well, they have six. And I think he could get in, along with Nye and Mescal and
Talk about someone who deserves
Farrell and Butler.
That's going to be a hot category if that happens.
Yeah,
and then
hot.
Mostly Bill Nye, but
and then I do have Fraser in there, but also I could see him snubbing him too, and I could see the former
Not Denzel Washington.
No, I could see Daniel Kaluuya getting in there for Nope as that lone nominee.
That would
interesting.
Yeah,
That'd be interesting.
Interesting.
Previous winner, 2-time winner at BAFTA. I would love to see Lashana Lynch get in. Obviously, Emma Thompson's a good one as well. And obviously Tom Hanks, Elvis, let's get in. Yeah,
I thought you meant
please.
Really? Over Eddie Redmayne in The Good Nurse? Come on.
Tom Hanks. What a year.
Erik, I can't predict that. I can't. So I think Hank's is gonna get in and it's gonna like blow everyone's minds. The Snowman, indeed. So all right. We will be back early next week. I believe the episode's gonna drop on Friday of next week. And the reason why we're doing it a little bit earlier, folks, is just because Sundance is literally that weekend as well. So doing it a little bit early. We're gonna try to have as many people on. It's gonna be a long episode, so just buckle in for it. But it's our big Oscar nomination, final predictions and maybe some listener questions to go alongside it. But until then, we will see you all next time.